recent college football. All right, we admit up front we do not gamble on these picks. Do not use our college football picks to do anything where we try to influence money because we're bad with straight-up games. Last week, Craig was the best at 3-4, and that was the best. And Kansas fans have begged me not to pick them. Just don't pick us. So these are the 7 games I think we have. Here are the picks for this week, and there's a lot of them that are not quite chalk. There's a few. Paul, Craig, and me, left to right. Paul's influenced dramatically by this pick, Kansas and TCU.
I am. I can't switch the pick I made on Monday and the big one too with nothing having happened at Kansas this week. So nothing's happened injury-wise, and I'm just going to ride with them until they lose. They've got game day. They seem to adapt to situations well. I was very impressed with last week where the game was not how they played all the rest of their games. It was 14-11 was the final score. Iowa State mucked it up pretty good, and then they held on and they played Iowa State's game and beat them. So I really do think I'm going to stick with them. I'm ready to be wrong. I was 1-6 last week. I know
really wow.
Yeah, I know there's still a place I can go down, but I don't think I'm going to be 1-6 this week. So there's really almost anywhere to go but up.
Well, if you listen to anybody who proclaims to be like experts in this area, you're going to take massive losses from time to time. Like, that's unavoidable. Like, even people who are really good at it have under 500 weeks and have weeks that aren't so good, or weeks that are good where they finish like a couple above 500. Like, that's just the nature of it. But yeah, we don't roll the spreads just straight up. And I think the fact that there's normally a lot of Big 12 picks just speaks to like how topsy-turvy it is. I mean, if you go back and look at the games last week, I mean, yeah, it's 1-6, but there's a couple of picks you probably made that were the right picks. Like, in theory, that if you went back and looked at it again, you'd probably make the same pick. Like, I'd still go pick Baylor, guys. Like, I don't know about y'all. I mean, yeah, in hindsight, I go, oh, well, sure, Oklahoma State. But if you were to transport me back and even give me a little bit of knowledge of it, I'm still picking Baylor to win that game, So that's just part of the deal. I guess I was one above, but yeah, I guess, Garrett, flip that back up there. I guess you give our rationale for each. I know this game's in Kansas. I know that game day's there, and Jalen Daniels is a lot of fun and all of that. But I feel like KU's been obviously really good offensively, and I think it was great that they were able to win a game defensively last week, but I do think that should have been their first loss last week. I think Iowa State should have won that game. KU made enough plays and got enough breaks that they didn't, and I'm not feeling as confident about TCU, honestly, going into this now as we're getting towards the end of the week, but you got to make your picks when you make them. So, yeah, I'm going with the Frogs. I just think overall they're a more well-rounded team. I think they can match some of the explosiveness offensively, and I think that they could play, toe-to-toe defensively for sure. So, I just went with TCU there.
A lot of people on the chat room. I just put this up, and now listen to me. Go ahead and come back to us, Garrett, and we'll put that graphic back up. I just said this on the graphic because we put our names out there with our picks, and believe me, we go down crashing and burning like we did last week. If you email me, Smokey HSFB, that's for high school football, Smokey HSFB at gmail.com, your 7 picks for the games we have up. First person to enter that goes 7-0, I will send you a 365 sports cap. All right?
All right.
I don't care if we get 2 entries or 200. I'll go through them. 7-0, not 5 of you. The first one, based on the time you enter and email me, because that will have the code or the time up there, you get a 365 sports cap, and you can go to bearskins.com for more information on that. So I picked TCU. I just did, and that's probably for Kansas's favor that I picked TCU because I've missed KU I think 1 or 2 times before that. Now, the Red River shootout. Somebody wanted to correct us last night. Hey, stop using that politically correct term. It's Red River Shootout in Dallas at the Cotton Bowl. We've all been there. It's a great atmosphere. It's incredible. We all, across the board. Garrett, pick Texas.
Yeah, well, I think this just kind of goes down to where Oklahoma is and where Texas is right now. Quinn Ewers is coming back. Dylan Gabriel's not going to play. If Dylan Gabriel was going to play, I could sell myself into this game being weird and wild. I just don't think that with backup quarterbacks that this is going to be a good day for OU.
You sure he's not playing?
Well, yeah, I'm not, but
I don't know. I mean, I would lean towards the fact that he's not, but they very much put out a graphic today that had him in a suit, boarding the transportation to Dallas. So, I understand that could be mind games on Oklahoma's part. Like, oh, look, here's Dylan Gabriel. Everybody get their hopes up that he might play. Or, Texas sees that and, maybe has an idea that he might play or something. I don't know. Maybe it's not mind games. Maybe it's just he was in the picture frame at the time. But I think that there had to be some intentionality there one way or the other. I still assume he's probably not going to play. Even if he was, I'm still picking Texas. Like, even if he was playing, I would still pick Texas in this game just based on what we've seen most recently. I mean, Oklahoma's given up about 1 billion yards over the last 2 weeks, like 80-something points. I mean, they did their defense. I don't see them getting all of the corrections made in enough time to then go there and put on a better showing against Quinn Ewers and Bijan Robinson and Xavier Worthy and company. I'm rolling with Texas. I don't think that they're like great and unbeatable, but I do think they got a lot more mojo coming into this game and a lot more questions answered than Oklahoma does at this point. So I'll say this: if Texas does not win this game, that is an all-time atrocious loss, in my opinion, based on just the talk going into this week.
Against Oklahoma?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think that's an all-time bad loss for Texas if they don't beat Oklahoma tomorrow.
It seems like I agree, everything, and there may be a game or two along the way that we're like, oh, my God. But from the time I understood college football in the 60s, 70s, and throughout, Oklahoma and Texas, they've always both been pretty good. There's been times when they're both, but it's an incredible game. There are some upsets, but most of them I think of the Texas winning. I agree with you. I think that it's all set up. First of all, Oklahoma looks like a mess on defense. The one thing UT can do is score.
Yep.
Their defense at Texas is playing so much better. Yes, they lost the game in Lubbock to Texas Tech and blew a 14-point lead. So no lead is safe. And last year they blew like a 28-point whatever lead it seemed like it was against Oklahoma.
The last time I think of this game being a big surprise was Mac Brown's last year. And maybe I'm missing a game in between then. But, you felt like,
Charlie Strong.
Okay, yeah,
Charlie Strong got him one time.
Both of those were basically the same thing. It's like those guys are lame ducks, and they go and beat Oklahoma when it seems like there's nothing going in UT's favor. So yeah, it would very much be like that, just the UT version. But I think that Oklahoma just feels so down bad going into this game that, like, we're talking about the coaches in that. We're not talking about Venables being the hot side. We're just talking about like how bad OU looks, right? And now potentially no starting quarterback. There's a lot going against them. So, Texas has to win this game tomorrow. If they don't, then, man, I can't wait to see how they did not win this game tomorrow.
Quanah Hurt on the chat room. Don't laugh at me, but I think as impossible as it seems, Oklahoma might barely beat Texas enough. OU players are out. It might give Texas some problems.
It's college football.
Yeah,
I mean, it could happen.
It's a rivalry game. I mean, it really is. I just don't see how they can keep up with what I even saw, much less what we say about their defense, which was trashed by TCU. But offensively, I didn't see much even when Gabriel was in the game early on. In 2013 and 15, Paxton brought up when Texas beat Oklahoma. There was also a game when Sam Ehlinger beat Kyler Murray during the season. Then they played in the Big 12 championship game, and Oklahoma ended up having a big game. Calcaterra had a big moment or 2 or 3 in that game, and so was Murray, and they won the game that same year.
I mean, that's all fair. Those are all, again, Texas examples, though. This is Oklahoma that's coming in where we're going like they're not good at all, or they're not very good. And so, if they end up winning this game, man, that's going to be some tale to tell on Monday.
It has been since 1999 since Oklahoma wasn't good. They had the one team, like they were 9-4, like in 2013 or 14. But for them, the last time they weren't good, to me, would have been Stoops' first year. They ended up going to a bowl game and winning. I think they did. Before that, it was, of course, John Blake, and Snellenberger. But it has been that long since they were not good. And so this is the first time we've been in a position to see that in quite some time. Somebody mentioned, I think it was Mike, I don't want Texas to win. I want them to cover. Well, that means they won, right?
Yeah.
Because they're 9.5 point favorites. All right, graphic. In the game 3. Texas Tech fans, I know you're going to flare up on us, and that's fine. Texas Tech's a pretty big underdog in this game, even though it's at home. Oklahoma State coming off the 36-25 win against Baylor. We have the Cowboys across the board, left to right.
Yeah, I just think that they're better right now. And I know that one thing, that Tech's not going to go away in this game. They'll be hanging around, but Oklahoma State's just better.
Yeah, I think Oklahoma State's just better. I'll say what I said yesterday. I know Oklahoma State fans, they want everybody to crown them after last week, or at least there's a portion of them that do. They've been very active online and telling everybody, why are you not talking about us? Why are you disrespecting us? I've seen that card played a lot this week. But as somebody who covers Baylor, I give them their respect, but I also know what I saw from Baylor, and I do think that played into it as much as, what Oklahoma State was doing. Not to take away from their win by any means, but I don't think that was just a dominant Cowboys win that was putting the Big 12 on notice. If you guys want to disagree with that,
no.
By all means.
I
think it was a good win, and they played better, but I don't think that it's all right, they're the overwhelming favorite in the conference now. I'm just not there.
Oklahoma State.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, no, They went into Waco and beat the defending champions, and they dictated that game from almost the jump with a couple of plays early on that maybe changes it in some way. Oklahoma, to me, dominated that game.
Oklahoma State
dominated that game. They have the best win so far, perhaps in the conference, although the win by TCU over Oklahoma, it depends on if you want to look at it that way.
Yeah. I got called on our post-game show in the chat room a fat clown last week by one of the Oklahoma State fans that was watching.
Oh,
and
God, unnecessary.
It's fine. I'm a Husky guy and I'm a comedian, so technically in one regard, I'm a fat clown. Also, you can't hurt me. But I do know this. He said that because I said everybody in this conference is going to lose. Almost everybody in the country is going to lose. That's how college football works. That's how it works, especially in the Big 12 this year. It looks like everybody's going to have to take a loss because there's no head and shoulders favorite. Oklahoma State's the favorite right now, and that's for sure. But that can change in a hurry based on this league.
There's some weird things, Craig, that happen in Lubbock, Texas. You never know. But,
I mean, it's not even I'm going with Oklahoma State in this game. I'm just saying that to address the a-holes, like the guy who said that to you, Paul, who I'd love to hear somebody say that. I doubt that person says that in person. I'll put it that way. And I doubt that person has much room to talk. I'll put it that way as well. But I still pick Oklahoma State. I'm just saying I'm not going to pick them to go, represent in Arlington just yet. Can I see a couple more games first? Do we have to crown you right now? Can we see you play a couple more times before we go all in? That's the whole point of why everybody's just kind of let's just see. But again, great win. But yeah, I picked them to win this weekend because Texas Tech's been through a grinder. They've played now 5 straight top 25 teams. And I don't know if you guys noticed, but there's still a quarterback controversy in Lubbock. They're not sold on Donovan Smith. Joey McGuire had to spend 3 minutes answering a Donovan Smith quarterback question in his press conference this week because there's rumblings, not necessarily from him or his coaches, but from the fan base or the media, that he's not the guy. He makes too many mistakes. He's not the guy. And that's the frustrating part about Donovan Smith is he can make some great plays. He's very hard to defend at times, but he can also make some really dumb mistakes. And he can make plays to win you games, make plays to lose you games. And so basically going against Spencer Sanders, this could be one of the greatest quarterback showings we see, or it could be just a folly of errors on both sides. I don't really know. But Spencer Sanders is playing really well right now. Oklahoma State seems to have a lot of confidence, and I just think Texas Tech's got to be about tapped out or low on gas at this point. So give me the Cowboys.
All right, I took Oklahoma State. Let's go back down to the graphic. We do have Grayson Grundhafer at 345, but we're going to take it up until this time. Utah and UCLA across the board. UCLA, they got a little help through the transfer portal. Their defense is much, much better, big time better than last year. Garrett, please leave that up so we can look at the picks, even though it's the same across the board. I take Utah. I didn't even look at the odds of this game, and I take Utah to win it.
Yeah, I just think Utah's got more experience, although if UCLA does pull this one off, that makes them much more serious. I mean, they just beat Washington. Pac-12 and the ACC, Big 12 all look kind of the same to me, where there's a bunch of teams that can win in any given week, and there's not too many people that are head and shoulders above. But I like Utah and their experience and Cam Rising to win this one.
Yeah, I'm hoping that Tavion Thomas will break out of his shell a little bit more as far as getting into the end zone. I mean, last year it seemed like he was scoring 2 touchdowns a week, and this year it doesn't seem quite as effective. I think Brant Keithy being out, obviously, for Utah is a huge loss for them and made me kind of hesitate for just a moment. But I watched UCLA last week, and Dorian Thompson-Robinson's playing well and all that, but I think Utah's had the upper hand as of late. I think UCLA is good, but I think Utah's kind of flying under the radar somehow a little bit, even though they're number 11, and maybe that's just because we don't talk a ton about them, so it feels that way, but they are number 11 after all. I mean, they're a good team, and I think just because they lost to Florida in week 1, people have kind of maybe brushed them to the side a little bit in the grand scheme of things. So I expect a big win for the Utes. But this should be a great game for the Pack, who's got a lot of suddenly some showcase games that maybe you weren't expecting prior to the year.
Yeah, that'd be good for them, no question. Then there's Brigham Young and Notre Dame. Notre Dame is a favorite, according to Vegas, in this game. And, Paul, I even sent you a text earlier today. I go, why? I thought Jaron Hall was the best player on the field. Maybe there's others. I know Brigham Young has still not been able to get the full throttle of their wide receivers really going yet because of injuries, Nakua and Romney. But, you look at Notre Dame. There was a point they lost 3 games in a row. The bowl game, their first 2 games, lost to Marshall. Brigham Young did blow a tire after beating Baylor against Oregon, but I take Brigham Young. Craig, you've taken Notre Dame here.
Yeah, I don't think the bowl game loss really has anything to do with anything, honestly. I know what you're coming from, but I think that, like, if that's what you're – like, I don't count that. I understand the struggle to open the year, Marcus Freeman, all the hype and everything like that, but I think the strength of schedule is something that actually plays pretty well into why I like Notre Dame in this game. I think they've been tested massively. I think that, obviously BYU's had some big tests as well, but – I don't know. I think Nakua still is banged up. So, I liked what I saw from BYU, but the best showing I've seen from them all year was when they were jacked to the gills on a Saturday night for a team that they had an axe to grind against. And they followed that up with, a couple struggles. And they got the win against Utah State, but it was a little bit more of a grind than I expected for them. So I still like BYU a great deal. But, yeah, I'm going with the Irish at the Raiders' place.
I just haven't seen it from Notre Dame to make me think anything. I know they beat North Carolina, but I'm not all that impressed with North Carolina.
North Carolina can score, dude. They got a good quarterback, man. They just can't play defense.
But I just – and that's why I'm not impressed with them. I just go with a better quarterback here in Jaron Hall.
Let's go to a couple more. Paul, you mentioned Iowa State because of what they do well against is stopping the run. Of course, Kansas State with Martinez and Deuce Vaughn. Martinez has been very efficient when he's throwing the football, but they have run people over like Oklahoma. Last week they did it again to Texas Tech. And you take the Cyclones. You've given us that reason why. Craig and I both take K-State. All right? Down to the bottom. NC State, Paul's alma mater, Florida State. Normally this is not something that you would pick against your Seminoles, and they have been pretty good this year.
Yeah.
But you don't quite like him today or this weekend.
I think the top 4 in this part of the ACC, Clemson, NC State, Wake, and Florida State are really close to each other. I think the biggest difference in this game is going to be, 1, that it's at NC State, and 2, that Florida State does not really have a strong kicker in Ryan Fitzgerald. He's been all over the map. It's what they've been talking about all week. It puts them in a position in games like this against teams that are good on defense like NC State to where early in the game especially, not even late in the game, in close games, early in the game when you're kind of trading points back and forth, you need some field goals, and Florida State hasn't been able to do that. I think NC State can also stop them on 4th downs in that kind of tweener territory. So as good as Jordan Travis has been and will continue to be, I just think it's going to be a tough one for the Noles.
Okay, I take NC State at home, and I'm just kind of tossing up a quarter or any kind of a coin. James Park, Scott Van Kale, Asher Rowe, Sam Smith, and also others have put their emails into me for the picks this week. If you go 7-0, first person based on the time you entered, will get a 365 sports cap if you go 7-0 with the list of what Paul, Craig, and I have predicted.
Yeah, I'm not a huge NC State fan at the moment. I do think they're a little bit faulty, but I'm picking them against FSU, and I actually thought that I'd pick FSU coming off of a loss, but I just think they got a few question marks right now that I'm not willing to jump all in. I just feel like, okay, Devin Leary's bound to break out at some point. This seems like a good opportunity to win a game that's, of big importance. So, yeah, I'm riding with NC State, but I definitely think that they are I don't know if they're top 15 good just yet.
Yeah.
I think that they showed some good things against Clemson, but I don't know if they're top 15 good. But I'm taking them over the Noles.
All right, when we come back, Grayson Green.